r/AskReddit. Serious girls who have been guilted into going out with a nice guy. How did it go? He was the first guy I ever really dated. We were in high school. We'd been friends for a long time, probably since elementary school, and then we started dating when I was a freshman. He was initially really nice, seemed to respect me, and had an interest in what I was interested in. I was head over heels for him. I never knew that I was worthy enough to be loved, so I was willing to do things that I shouldn't have in order to keep that feeling of being loved intact. As time went on, things began to go downhill. He started comparing me to other girls in the school, making note of what features that he preferred on them, and telling me that it's too bad that I didn't have them. He started telling me that I needed to dress nicer. I'd always been a jeans and t-shirts kind of gal, but he specified he wouldn't talk to me unless I wore certain things. My makeup had to be done a certain way, and he began pressuring me to dye my hair blonde. I'm a Pacific Islander. I never went full blonde, but I did get dramatic highlights due to the pressure. He said I should lose weight. He told me that I needed to pick him up from school in the morning, since I had purchased my own car and had the ability to drive before he did. A lot of my funds from working went to him, as he demanded an allowance. He did not have a job. After he found out that I didn't believe in a god, he began forcing me to go to church with him on Sundays and to read from the Bible throughout the week. He texted me sometimes to let me know that he was masturbating to porn of some hot chicks and that I should take lessons from them. It eventually came to the point that he pressured me into having sex with him, convincing me that it was the only way for me to show him that I loved him. Anal sex was pretty much the only thing that he did. Despite me giving him oral when he requested it, he never returned the favor after one time, as he claimed I tasted awful. He took photographs of us having sex and regularly demanded sex after school functions. I found out at one point that he showed pictures of us together to his friends and told them how much of a slut I was for him. Even after all of this, he would sometimes buy me gifts, send me messages telling me that he loved me, wrote me notes, and handed them to me in class. Told me that he was doing me a favor by loving someone like me. It was so confusing. I eventually did break up with him. It took extreme measures to get him to stop stalking me. I think that relationship has still had damaging effects on me to this day. Edit. Fixed some redundancy. It was when the new Star Wars movie came out, and he kept on messaging me on FB. I didn't give him my number, asking to go see it, because he knew I was a huge fan. He was a friend of a friend that I hadn't really talked to, and then we were put in the same project group together at university, so we spent a lot of time working on that. But it was strictly academic. I always used to turn down his not so subtle advances and try not to engage with him during our time together. Anyway, one day, when it was just the two of us working on our project together in the library, he seemed a little off, and I made the mistake of asking if he was alright, and he went into this long tale of his grandma being sick in the hospital, and how his parents were fighting. Me being the sensitive soul that I'm felt bad, and was trying to cheer him up. Like I laughed at his cringy jokes, and didn't roll my eyes every time he hit on me. The same night me messaged me of FB asking to see the last GD. He had asked multiple times before, and I said no, adding that it would really cheer him up, and needed to have one good night. I agreed and then had to give him my number, which was a huge mistake, because he would text me all the freaking time in the middle of the night, during lectures. Really inappropriate stuff too. Like one time at 3 AM he messaged me saying he was thinking about me. The day we were meant to go he texted me saying we should meet up an hour earlier and go eat before the movie, to which I replied no, this isn't a date, we are going as friends. He didn't seem to mind that much. At the cinema he insisted on paying for everything, and I didn't want to make a scene so I agreed. The whole time he would make little movements like putting his hand in my back pocket or around my waist, and I kept slapping his hand away, and he treated it like a joke. The whole time during the movie he would rest his hand on my knee, and I had to subtly move away, so his hand graduated to my thigh. At that point I grabbed his hand and moved it. I could barely focus on the movie or swallow my popcorn, because he was so grabby. During the end he bent his head and kissed my neck, at which point I yelped in shock and decided that I was leaving. I didn't even see if he was following me. He was acting like he hadn't done anything, and I just called a taxi to take us to the uni accommodation. I didn't speak to him once, except to tell him go to hell and that he was disgusting. Got back to my flat, and he was the nerve to ask if he's gonna see me again, and tried to kiss me, but I pushed him off, and he left saying that I had hurt him, and tried to act like he was the victim. Anyway, later I found out he had lied about his grandma and just wanted me to feel bad for him. Nice guy story, where I was the nice guy. To this day I feel terrible for my actions. This started 12 years ago, when I was 19 years old. Met a girl at a club, hit it off right away, and she ended up being my girlfriend. At the start everything was fantastic, we were genuinely happy together, and I was in a constant state of not believing my luck of having found a girl as awesome as her. About 1 month in, I did something very stupid. I met another girl, we had drinks, and ended up sleeping together. Instead of coming clean with awesome girl in R1, I decided to keep it to myself. All was fine, except for a little lingering voice which said that, if I could do such a thing, surely she could as well. This voice grew louder over time. I started joking about her seeing other guys, you know, those half jokes which aren't funny at all, and mainly make the other person feel bad. I started checking her phone, reading her socials, etc. At some point I was certain she was cheating on me, even though there were no signs of it whatsoever. I started cutting her off from her friends, especially male friends, and getting angry if she did not respond to my texts inquiring where she was, with who, and why she was not home. I started doing surprise visits and getting really angry with her if there happened to be male friends in her vicinity, even if they were in big groups. My reasoning with her was always that what we had was special and that she shouldn't want to spend her time with anyone else than just us. Manipulative as I was, I'd changed tactics in the span of minutes, being real nice and friendly one moment, only to catch her off guard and get furious an instant later. I'd use my kindness to get information, trapping her in a constant cycle of guilt. Fast forward a bit, we've been together for a year now, and she has gone to uni making new friends. We are fighting every day now. One time I leave her house after a fight and realize I forgot my phone. I go back in, I hid her keys, and found her crying in her room. A moment of clarity struck, and I broke up with her, justifying it to myself as a messiah act. Surely this would have been the end of it, but nope. What followed was 3 years of me texting her, calling her, trying to figure out if she was seeing anyone, and getting real angry when she was. It just did not stop. Even if we did not meet up for a few months, and I had somehow convinced her I had changed, I'd end up doing the same thing over again on the very same day that we met up. As in, surely if she saw how nice I was now she should want me back. So why doesn't she? Insert guilt trip, etc. This went on for years, and it killed me. I saw what I was doing to her, and felt horrible for it. But that voice and entitlement kept popping up, so every time she offered me friendship, I'd unleash the guilt trip. At some point it stopped. I started analyzing my own actions in this, and shut off all contact with her or any one of her friends, which were also my friends. I just forced it all away, and every time I felt this voice popping up, I'd try to analyze where this entitlement was coming from, so that I could fight it. I can't really explain how it ended up going away, other than the fact that one day I noticed I did not feel these things anymore. For a long time I refused any form of romance with anyone, afraid that I would start the cycle again. After some time I did meet someone else. We've been very happily together for 7 years now. When we started dating I was very open about all this, which I think helped a lot. I rarely feel these pangs of jealousy pop up anymore. When they do, I know they are not rational, and I can shrug it off with ease now. It's something that won't ever fully go away, but I know it's all me, and I know where to find help when needed. I wanted to share this here not for sympathy or whatever, maybe just to show how creepy the mind can act from a first person perspective. I feel terrible for what I have done to another person. Nobody is entitled to another person's love, attention, or affection. To those who are currently in a situation like this on the receiving end, walk away, cease contact, break it off. People don't change overnight. Even after years it can still linger on, buried deep in the mind. and ultimately it's personal responsibility to face your demons and do something about it. Don't get guilted into becoming the pillar of stability for another person to hang on to. The best thing you can do for the both of you is walk away. We were friends in high school and most of college. It was one of those things where he was a friend of a friend, but we always went to the same parties, hung together in the same group and so on. The guys in the group would always say things like, "Ah man, you and Kyle would be so great together. You should give him a shot." I'd kind of laugh it off because for a majority of the time I had a boyfriend. Eventually me and the boyfriend broke up, and about a week later Kyle asked me out. I wasn't really ready, but I figured it was a first date and everyone had been pressuring me into giving this guy a chance, so I went. The whole evening was awkward. We just ordered a pizza and watched movies, which was what we did in our friend group anyways, but this guy would not stop staring. I felt like I couldn't even eat because I was under a microscope. The evening ended uneventfully, but then there was the aftermath. We kept texting and seeing each other in the friend group, and about a week later he asked when we can have another date. I told him that maybe I had rushed into things too fast, and I just wasn't feeling any connection with him. I broke up with my girlfriend for you. Yup, dude found out I was single, dumped his girlfriend of 8 months, just so he could ask me out to an awkward pizza date in his bedroom. The timely cherry on top is that they got back together, and apparently I'm tearing their marriage apart because she found a bunch of texts from me from 6 years ago, and he admitted that he kept them cause he still likes me. I haven't seen him in 4 years. Edit for timeline. We are friends in high school, 10 years ago, and college, 5 to 6 years ago. While we are in college, he asks me out after dumping his girlfriend. Sometime after that they get back together and are married last year. Last week, a friend informs me that they are on the verge of divorce because she found texts he had saved, screenshots, from our college chats 5 or 6 years ago. Edit. Several people are commenting that I shouldn't have gone out with him and just told him I wanted to stay friends. The thread is literally girls guilted into going out with nice guy. Wasn't really a date. I was at a hiking trip with my sister and other people from our village when we met a group of guys, drinking and having fun. Was on German Father's Day, so it wasn't an unusual sight. For some reason my sister got into a talk with the guys and somehow got me and her invited for the party at one of the guys' house later. No big deal. We brought her boyfriend with us and were expecting some good time. My boyfriend was on a biking trip with his dad, so he couldn't come. We arrive and nobody else is there. Guy says they will all arrive later, and we are early, 30 minutes after the time he told us to be there, and we start drinking, having fun and everything. He clearly has a thing for me, invites me to go on festivals with him. Sister's boyfriend tells me I would be stupid if I say no, and he would totally be going. The others arrive, and at some point the homie Arwana asks me to go out for a walk. He needs some air. We walk a bit and suddenly he turns around, telling me I'm the love of his life, the girl meant for him, most beautiful, smart, etc. he has ever seen. I was shocked and didn't know what to say, except I have a boyfriend, you know. He said he doesn't care, we are clearly soulmates, and then just kisses me out of nowhere. Tells me he will break up with his girlfriend for me. He never mentioned her before, and I should do the same. Luckily, my sister blacked out on the toilet and someone shouted at him for help unlocking the door, so we went back up. I took care of my sister. His girlfriend arrived. He pulled me aside and told me he would do it now, right here. I said no, and he told me to take my sister and leave. What I did then? He messaged me on Facebook the next day that I was a whore, and I lead him on, and he almost broke up with his future wife for a B*TCH like me. TL. Doctor, met a guy, got invited to his house. He wanted me to break up with my boyfriend. He wanted to break up with his girlfriend. Kissed me, called me soulmate, and then a whore when I said no. All within 24 hours. Edit. Since a lot of you asked why would you let a stranger kiss you, or if I told my then boyfriend about it, we did not make out and did not kiss him back. He smooched my lips after he approached me in the middle of a sentence at high speed and let go of me seconds later, before I could even process what had happened. I can take care of myself and would have given him a good kicking, but I honestly was worried about my sister. Even though I used the word luckily, at least I could make you laugh about that. All my friends said a guy from our group of friends was very nice, even though I felt like he was creepy. Went out once, thought I'd give it a chance to be nice. Regretted it immediately. He asked me what I thought of being in a relationship with him, and when I said no / I didn't want that because I wasn't very interested and we had only been friends before this, he said he was disappointed with my answer and expected something more worthy of him. He said that saying no was disrespectful. Big yikes. We met once after that because he surprise visited me a few months later. He asked me to ruffle through my hair because he wanted to feel my scalp, treated me like a dog, and wanted me to sit next to him so he'd be closer to me. He also thought it was a great idea to mention that he sometimes hears voices in his head and has dreamt of killing people. I rushed him out of my apartment onto the street. I just wanted him to be gone. I checked my keys 5 times to see whether he took any. I've had to see him a couple times since then, and he is the most creepy, socially inept person I've ever met. He's so aggressive and impulsive. I'm truly afraid he will rape or kill someone someday, and I'm still afraid that that person could be me. Edit. This blew up. Yes, he still is in my circle of friends. For some reason my guy friends laughed it off and don't see him as much of a threat to anyone, let alone me. I avoid him as much as I can and never see him in groups of less than 5 people. That talk of murdering people is fucking frightening. I went out with a guy I did a show with once. I was in the cast. He was on the crew. I thought B was attractive and sweet during the show, and we spotted each other on Grindr a few weeks after the show closed. We decided to meet up for a movie date, which went well enough. After our dates, we'd usually sit in my truck in his grandmother's driveway, since he lived with her, after I dropped him off and just talk for an hour or so. The talks were usually pleasant, but one night, he mentioned how he knew how he'd kill his parents if he had to. He said all the reasons why he could justify it and how he's do it. He really went into detail, like, frighteningly so. Before that, I never wanted our truck talks to end. They were so pleasant and always felt like they ended way too soon. That night, though, I could feel every second tick by. I wanted him out of my truck right then, but it was late, we were alone, and I don't think I told anyone where I was. Plus, he knew generally where I could be found. I didn't want to give him any reason to snap on me then or later. So, I listened and just hurried along for the longest time. Finally, he said he should get in. He went in for a kiss, and still not wanting to see if he was serious about killing people who upset him, I let him, and absolutely cringed at it, said goodbye, drove away, and slowly ghosted him over the next few weeks. It's scary when people talk about murdering other people. He needed help, but I didn't feel like the one to give it, especially because I was about to move, and that was honestly a summer fling, as I made it clear from the start. Still scares me to think about. The date wasn't too bad, although he kept changing pretty much every single sentence he said, so it would fit my interest. Something like I like ice cream, cool. I like frozen yogurt, oh yeah, that's what I meant. Ice cream is nice, but frozen yogurt is amazing. And so on for 4 hours straight. At the end I had no idea what he was actually like. He also kissed me in the most awkward way possible. I guess he thought it was going to be romantic and spontaneous, but it wasn't. Then kissed me again when he walked me to the train station. He hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe and started making weird noises, kind of like what some people do during heavy pre-sex makeout sessions, except it was a rather quick kiss in a public place. Started texting me before I even got home, and when I didn't answer, got upset. Told him he was nice, but I don't think we'd work out. Said it's cool, asked if we can stay friends. Silly me, I said yes. We kept talking for about a month, during which he very friendly kept checking if I had slept with someone else and making sure I know how much of a sex god he is. You know, I once even made my lesbian friend come super hard. This is also the time I met my current BF and was meeting a bunch of new people at uni, so we'd talk less and less each week. Then one day he asked me out. I said I wasn't sure if he was completely fine with us being just friends, so that wouldn't be appropriate. He went on this massive rant about how he'd actually been seeing someone else in that time, but they broke up shortly before that, how he's so over me and didn't even think I'm that hot anymore, and how nothing would happen. I said no, because I was broke and couldn't fully enjoy myself while worrying about not spending too much. We were supposed to go to a Metallica concert. Apparently his best friend had spent £120 on his ticket, but then last minute found something better to do. But he promised he'd take care of everything and we could chill at his place with pizza and some films. As friends, I said I could consider the concert, but there's no way I'd stay over. I mentioned texting someone else to see if they would be fine with me sleeping over at his afterwards. He jokingly asked if it's someone I'm sleeping with, and I said it's none of his business. Then he told me how much of a bitch I was for sleeping with other people and not sleeping with him. Said it's so unfair that he knew me so much better, but he felt like other people had more rights to me than him, and that we kissed, and he didn't expect me to be this slutty. BTW. I did not want to kiss him. It was just so random. I felt him making out with me before I even realized what his intentions were, and stopped it rather quickly. He called me a few more names, said he's such a nice guy and didn't deserve to be treated like that, and we never spoke again. Fun times. My story definitely isn't half as bad as what others have posted, but my experience did send me into a hole of recluse crappiness. He liked me based on my taste of music, not actually for me. At the time, 15 years ago, hardstyle/trance was still underground, and not like it is now in Australia. I happened to be the first girl he had met who liked this music, so he thought I was cool and wanted to date me. He guilted me into dating him by being depressed and sulking, saying I wasn't even giving us a chance, that it could be something fruitful, but we would never know. Big red flag should have been when his idiot friends were contacting me on ICQ. For you youngins, it was how us olders communicated with each other back in the 1880s via instant messaging, trying to sell him to me. It was all the typical crap of he's a great guy, he hasn't eaten since you turned him down, he doesn't even laugh anymore, and all of the usual crap. Being naive me, I thought why not? He did seem to make a good case when he said I was denying us a chance. He definitely proved his worth after a week of dating. He pulled out all of the romantic stuff no guy ever had, even until this day. We went to different high schools. He skipped his final class of school every day to pick me up from my school and drove me home. 1/2 hour drive to get to my house, then another 1/2 hour drive for him to get to his home. Bought me no occasion flowers, wined and dined me. I really felt stupid for turning him down at first. A month goes by and he ends a relationship over the phone. But by this time I thought he was the best thing ever, despite not actually having anything in common. I didn't even find him funny, but just the way he treated me made me feel like this is what love is meant to be. He just said he wasn't feeling it anymore. I found out the day after from a friend that there was a new girl at their school and he thought she was hot stuff, so his thought process was to drop me, woo her and then live a happy life together. Turns out new girl didn't like him, and he and his entourage tried the same guilt trip with her. She was a lot smarter than me to continually turn him down. At the time, I felt like I had a huge hole in my heart. I had never been so spoiled with love in my life. I didn't know how to handle the pain, so I wrote poems and listened to sad music. I remember putting Vertical Horizon, Everything You Want on repeat. I felt stupid to tell my friends about the situation in fear of them saying, wasn't that the creep who tried to win you over and you weren't interested in him anyway? After a few months of the idiot failing to win the new girl over, guess who came crawling back? I never told him that I knew about his crush on the new girl and his failed attempts of winning her over. He said shit like I realized how much I missed love you in the last few months. I didn't know what I was thinking when I broke up with you. It was at that moment I realized that it wasn't losing him that I was upset over. It was the feeling of being loved and being spoiled that I missed. I just said, well, the last few months have made me lose feelings for you like you said you had for me. It still sucked and took me a long time to get over the short-lived month of feeling loved. Took me even longer to get over the fact that I was hurt over a bloody con man who didn't even like me for me. Edit. Holy moly, thank you for all of the messages. I didn't think anyone would read my response being a massive long roll of text. This was 15 years ago, and this story no longer affects me, but I still remember the emotional roller coaster ride like it was yesterday. It wasn't my first love, but it was the first time I felt so extremely hurt and felt grown up, even for a teenager. I have dated since, and I'm currently in a healthy long-term relationship. We all live and learn. There is a sequel to this event, story #2. After this breakup, I confided in a nice guy friend, Fred. Not even going to hide his name cause this guy is a stage 1000 weirdo. I told Fred how ripped off I felt, and how I could not absolutely believe that I could not get over a relationship lasting only a month, when I handled the breakup of my 3-year relationship a lot better. He listened to all of my sorrows, and said that I will get back on my feet someday. I didn't know he meant that he was the one to prop me back on my feet. I told him of the dirty tactics ex-boyfriend used to get me, and how uneasy it had made me knowing he was a wreck because of me denying our potential relationship. So Fred thought it would be genius to ask me out the exact same way ex-boyfriend did. Gee, who would have thought that would work again? Fool me once, am I right? At first when I said no, he said he was only joking. He just wanted to see how I would react to his demands of dating me. Yeah, okay, I'll just let that slide. He got creepier by saying things like stripper pink pants. How do you know when you love someone? I can't remember how I dealt with that situation, but I remember feeling very awkward. Anyway, he would say these things and let me stew in it. On the very last day of school, he wanted to hang out with me, which sounded like fun. Little did I know he had plans to confess his undying love for me. He leant in for a kiss, which I blocked with my hand, asking WTF he was doing. He sat there tearfully weeping, wanting to know why I would submit to one guy's demands of dating them but not his. I had enough of his shit by this time, told him not to talk to me anymore. I was a college freshman. First week of school, I was in my dorm hangout area going through the calendar on my phone to add exams to my schedule. I didn't realize that nice guy was looking over my shoulder as I was doing so. He goes, "I see you don't have plans on Saturday. We are going to breakfast." I continually objected and said I just hadn't gotten around to adding anything to it yet. He wouldn't leave me alone about it all week, so eventually I agreed to go on Saturday. I was purposely on my worst behavior in an attempt to repulse him because clearly my opinion didn't matter otherwise. He ended the date by calling his mom, telling her that he met his future bride, that we were going to give her grandchildren. He handed the phone to me, so I straight up told his mother that I had no interest and was only there because he wouldn't leave me be, and apparently acting like a barnyard animal wasn't enough of a turn-off. Mom laughed and said, "Sounds like my boy." He would sit on the couch outside my dorm door to bombard me whenever I tried to go anywhere, followed me to and from classes for 2 months, and tried to befriend my roommate to get closer to me before moving on to a new target. She ended up with a restraining order against him. Edit for clarification, this was not my first interaction with this guy. He lived in my small dorm building where we did multiple getting to know you exercises that week. He helped a ton of people move in and was a self-proclaimed nice guy, like the title had in quotes. Most people's first impression of him was that he was nice enough, but a little off. I clearly completely agree. That dude was creepy AF. I just posted in a hurry and left out some background. Edit. Since nice guy was in quotes in the op, I thought it was clear that we weren't dealing with actual nice guy.